The woman was just waiting for the subway to pass and poured a big mouthful of alcohol into her mouth. Who knew it was such an inconspicuous action, but it almost killed her, because in the next second, she was unconscious under the influence of alcohol. But when she woke up again, she instantly blinked and only saw the subway station full of people. At this time, it became empty and quiet, a little scary. Did she miss the subway? With confusion, she quickly climbed to the first floor. As expected, not only was there no one in the big subway station, but even all the exits were tightly locked. Hello? Hello? However, she said hello for a long time, but she never got a response. Realizing that all the staff had gotten off work, Xiaomei began to get nervous for a moment because she had never encountered such a situation before. Just when she felt helpless, she suddenly heard the sound of the last train slowly entering the platform. So she rushed down the stairs without saying a word and rushed into the carriage as soon as the subway started. But what she didn't know was that a dark shadow was following her into the carriage. Xiaomei, who was in a hurry to get on the train, was in a hurry to get on the train. I thought I could finally go home and rest, but I didn't wait for her to be happy for a while. The subway suddenly stopped. However, the strange thing is that all the doors did not automatically open. This means that it is not a normal stop, because at this time, she was the only one left on the subway. Xiaomei had no choice but to cross the carriage. She rushed to the driver's cabin and wanted to ask why the driver stopped the car, but no one answered for a long time. But what she didn't know was that the driver had already died on the driver's seat. When she continued to knock on the driver's cabin, the circuit of the carriage suddenly broke. Suddenly, Xiaomei, who was in the dark, ran and saw a ray of light behind her. She thought it was the maintenance staff of the subway. She immediately ran up and asked for help. She didn't want to talk to the other person for a long time, but the person kept talking to her and slowly approached her. She realized that this person might be here to rob her. She subconsciously wanted to escape, but her old legs slipped and fell to the ground. Until the other person came to the front, Xiaomei finally saw that the person had been stalking her colleague. It turned out that the colleague had been flirting with Xiaomei's sexy figure, so she thought of using this dirty method to create a reputation. Then the man proposed to have a deep conversation with Xiaomei. Then he fell her to the ground without hesitation. Just when Xiaomei didn't know what to do, the door of the carriage automatically opened. Suddenly, a mysterious force dragged the colleague down. Then the sound of the colleague's cries was heard. Xiaomei wanted to check the situation of her colleague, but suddenly the other person climbed up in a hurry. Xiaomei noticed the danger and ran away. Obviously, the colleague had been attacked by some unknown creature. She crossed the carriage again and again, ran to the back of the driver's cabin, opened it, and hid in it in time. Just when she was shivering in the corner, she suddenly realized that there was a terrible black shadow outside the door. She realized that she shouldn't stay here for a long time, so she immediately opened the driver's door and ran in a crazy way along the track. Soon, she crossed the tunnel and came to another platform. But this is the same as the previous platform. It's also empty. She wanted to use a public phone to call the police, but there was no signal. Not only that, every exit was also tightly locked by iron chains. No matter how she shouted for help, no one would hear it in the middle of the night. Just when she was desperate, she suddenly heard a sound coming from the corner. Xiaomei carefully dug out her brain and found that it was a dog. She immediately realized that a dog should have an owner, so she followed the dog and finally followed it to a ventilation hole. As expected, there was a couple of homeless men living in it. Xiaomei's sudden intrusion scared the two of them to death. But when she learned that Xiaomei had spent a lot of money and asked her to find the exit, the homeless man said nothing and threw the money into his pocket. After settling down, he took Xiaomei to find the exit. Who knew that the two of them had just left, and the wife of the homeless man in the back heard a strange sound. When he came out to see, he saw a lot of mice in the empty space outside. He had no choice but to abandon the dog and get rid of the mice. Who knew that the next second, at the same time, while the two of them were looking for the exit, they found that their colleagues were lying on the track with blood all over their bodies. They saw that the other party still had a chance to survive. Seeing this situation, they had to rescue their colleagues together. But at this time, the dog of the homeless man came running all over his body. Seeing this, the homeless man was in a bad mood, so the horse kept kicking back. However, everything was too late. The wife in the airway had long gone. There was only a long blood mark on the ground. Realizing that his wife had suffered a miscarriage, he was angry and was ready to avenge his wife with blood. But what surprised him was that the blood eventually disappeared in a black tunnel. At the same time, Xiaomei on this side was about to collapse because her colleague had already stepped into the ghost gate. If you don't save her in time, she'll die soon. When Xiaomei was helpless, she suddenly found a communication device hanging on the wall, so she held her attitude and pressed the emergency call button. She didn't expect to get in touch with the security guard. When she saw Xiaomei, who was about to die, she told the security guard everything that was about to happen. She asked the security guard to come out and help, who knew that the other party was suspicious of the attitude, because during this time, she has always been abused by some homeless men. Unless Xiaomei can let her see the injured colleague, Xiaomei had no choice but to respond. Unexpectedly, the colleague had stopped breathing. But in order to make the security guard believe that he could only drag the body to the front of the camera, when he saw the body bleeding all over his body, the security guard realized the seriousness of the matter. When he was about to call the police, he suddenly found a lot of mice under his feet. He didn't wait for him to react. Suddenly, there was a big black hand behind him. He wiped his neck with one hand. When he heard the scream of the communication device, Xiaomei's scalp was numb. It seems that the security guard has also had a bad experience. Now he had to leave his companion's body and escape. He was going to warm up with the homeless man. But when he finally got there, he saw a terrible scene. Xiaomei's ass was pissing under this scary scene. He could only escape in a crazy way. After running around aimlessly, he finally ran into an underground warehouse. At this time, he didn't dare to take anything with him. He could only run to a bright place. He was afraid of being caught by that creature. But the light in the warehouse broke down in the next second. Now he's completely lost his way. Xiaomei, who had no other choice, had to hide in the corner. In order not to let that creature find out, he closed the flashlight on purpose. But when he opened it again, the monster came to the front without knowing it. Xiaomei was also suddenly scared by the monster and fainted. When he woke up again, he was locked in the water cell by the monster. Soon, a humanoid monster with a visible face appeared. It turned out that this monster was a normal person who had been sick by society. He just lived in the sewer for a long time. Gradually, his body and habits have changed over and over again. In the end, he evolved into a monster like this, and he's still in this dark water cell. Many unlucky eggs captured by him are imprisoned. Occasionally, he will take out a meal. He will also test the prey on a regular basis to see if it is still alive. If it's alive, it means that the meat is delicious and the taste is excellent, and if it's dead, it's dragged out. Throw it into the mouse pile and attack the mice. After the monster left, Xiaomei began to observe the surrounding situation. Then she found that the black guy was still alive, so she rushed to help him. In the conversation with Xiaomei, Xiaomei learned that the bottom of the water cell was connected, but unfortunately, she was surprised to find that when the monster was dragging the body, it happened to forget to close the door in front of the water cell. Now, as long as you swim all the way from the bottom, you can complete the diving action. So she tried to let Xiaomei swim, but Xiaomei said that she couldn't swim at all. In desperation, Xiaomei had to take a deep breath and dive into the water. However, at this critical moment, the monster came back in an inappropriate way. In order to give Xiaomei time, Xiaomei had to close her eyes and pretend to be dead.